All right, hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's your old buddy, Mr. G. Today, we're going to talk about some layers here. We're going to talk about layers. When we're doing Photoshop or Photopea, the three main pillars of Photoshop are one, layers, two, selections, and three, your masking layers. Okay, so in order to effectively use Photoshop, we need to master those three things. So today we're going to start with those layers. We started a little bit on it the other day. So I'm here in our Google Classroom here. And if you are in period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, if your classroom looks a little different, don't worry, everything else will be the same here. So we're going to go to classwork here, and we're going to go over here to images. Okay. And we are going to get this file right here. Now, again, we're not going to right click, we're going to left click. We're going to left click there, and we're going to say open with zip extractor. Now this is a PSD file, a Photoshop file. This is one of those sandwiched layer files, so it has all these different layers. In order to preserve that, we have to save it as a Photoshop file. So that's what this is, okay? So I'm going to open it with this zip extractor. So you probably have a browser extension, zip extractor, zip file opener, or something like that already built into your browser. If you don't have that, you can just do a quick Google search for zip extractor, and it is a Google Chrome add-on here, and you can just add that onto your Google Chrome browser. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say open that with zip extractor. It's going to sit here and do its thing for a second. And thinking, grinding. Okay, there I have the zip file, which zip file just means it's a compressed file. And then we unzip it here, and it has the Spaceman file. We're going to click on that Spaceman file there, and then it is going to go right there. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to download that. So we're going to hit download. That's going to go to your downloads file. So now we took it up from our Google Classroom down to your computer. Now we're going to put it back up to Photopea, back in the Google thing. So we're going to go to Photopea now, where we left off last time. I'm going to go ahead and close this file, and I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go Open. Okay, the file I want to go to open, I'm going to be in my Downloads file where I just saved that Spaceman file, and I am going to look for a file called Spaceman PSD. Okay, Spaceman Photoshop document. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and open that up there, and there we have our Spaceman file. Move this over here. All right, so just reviewing again, remember this is our workspace here. We've got our Spaceman file here. We've got our toolbar over here, which is whatever is in our hand. Whatever is in our hand, you'll notice changes our options. The option bar tells us the option for whatever is in our hands. Then above here is the command bar. And we have our layer or our palettes over here. We have mainly what we need is our layers palette right there. And then we have our history palette right over here. Okay, so we're going to look at what we have here. So we've opened this up here. Now, remember I have the auto select selected, and I've got my transform controls selected, so that I have that bounding box around my images and my layers as selected. Right now, I've got the astronaut selected. She's selected right there, so that when I have those transform controls on, I can see that I can move her around, and she's identified that I have her. And then if I click something else, bounding box goes to that, so I can click around here. All right, so let's look at these layers here we have. Okay, I've got, starting at the bottom, remember it's like a sandwich, right? So it's got layer upon layer upon layer. So the one on the very bottom is all the way in the background. So I've got my stars. Remember, we can click an eyeball out and back on. So I poke the eyeball. There, our very bottom layer is the stars layer there. Then I've got the spaceship right here, which is the shuttle up here. And then I've got the space shuttle, it says, is actually the spaceship. I think those are labeled wrong. Looks like a Imperial cruiser for you Star Wars fans. And I've got some small planets that are right there. And I've got my galaxy, which is right here. And I've got Jupiter. Got an alien ship. I've got this goofy little ship right here. And then I've got my astronaut, and she's right there. And then on the very top, I've got one that came and the eyeball's already poked out, and that is called room. Okay, now if I go and open up room, you'll see as it is on the very top layer, it covers up everything. Okay, now I want to remind you that everything is still there. Okay, it's just that the room is on the very top layer. Okay, now if I click and I select the astronaut layer, you'll see that the bounding box selects her. I can't see her because she is underneath the room layer. Okay, if I move around here, if I move my astronaut, let me lock my room here so that it won't move. And I grab my astronaut. You see that I can move her and she can hang out right in the window there, okay? But we're gonna go ahead and we're going to poke out the eye of that eyeball there, okay? So let's play around with this a little bit here. Let's go ahead and make a different composition with the elements that we have, okay? So let's go on here and let's go ahead. First, we're gonna go down and turn off the stars just so we can see a little bit better here. And we'll go ahead and turn off our astronaut 2 for right now. Okay, let's go to the alien ship. That's this goofy little guy right here. Remember, we can resize things. And I don't like that much. It kind of looks like a toy to me, so I'm just going to get rid of it. So how can we get rid of it? Well, we could go here and we could drag that layer down to the trash can. That would do it. Say Command Z to undo that. I could also right click that and click delete. That would also do it. I'm going to do Command Z again to undo that. Or I could do edit and cut, and that would also do the same thing. Okay, however you want to do it, or you can just grab it and you can also hit your delete button. We'll also get rid of that. Okay, so there are multiple ways to do things in the same thing in Photoshop. So often ways there's more than one path to get to where you're going. So any of the one of those will work. So anyways, we got rid of the little ship. Okay, let's go ahead and turn Jupiter off right now. I'm not sure if we're going to use that or not. Okay, let's go ahead to go down to Galaxy. There's our Galaxy. Let's go ahead and drag our Galaxy up here. Okay, and let's make it big. Okay, first let's zoom out. Let's get our zoom tool, and we're going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of look at what we got here. So I'm going to hold down my Option key or Alt key. Remember, we have our tool right here. Our zoom tool is the little magnifying glass, and I've got zoom in and zoom out. Or I can just hold that Alt key. We'll zoom back and forth. So I'm going to hold that Alt key, and I'm going to zoom out. Okay, and I'm going to grab my move tool again by hitting V on the command bar, and I am going to hold down my shift key to constrain that size of that galaxy, and I'm going to make it real big. Just put it up there and kind of center it there. I want it to go across the whole image here. Okay. Now I'm also going to rotate this a little. And if you remember how to rotate, we just hang off the edge of the corner of our bounding box. And you notice our little cursor changes from a cursor to an arrow that goes up and down to resize it when we get near the edge of the bounding box. If we go just outside of that, it turns to a little curve that shows that I can rotate it. Okay, and then I can just click and drag to rotate. So I'm going to rotate that to about 45 degrees. Okay, then I'm going to kind of position it there so that it goes in there. I like how that's going. Okay, now we just did a transformation. Okay, when we resize things, we rotate things, we mirror, flip something horizontal. Anytime we kind of change the size aspect of anything, it's going to be a transformation. We transformed it from one size to another. Now, when it happens, Photoshop asks us, do you want to commit that transformation? Saying, are you happy with where it's at? Can we move forward? Okay, that's what this little check mark is right here. If I push X, it's going to undo all that. Okay, Command Shift Z to move forward again here. Doesn't want to do it for me. It's all right. We'll just redo it. So there's my transformation, placed where I want it. And then I'm going to hit the check mark this time to say that, yes, let's commit that. Okay. Then that commits that right there. Okay. Again, if something doesn't work right, you've got your history over here, or Command Z, or you can go up here to edit and undo, redo. Okay. All right. So then we're going to hit Command 0 to zoom that back all up there. Now that looks pretty good. I like how that's laying there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and drag that all the way down to the bottom, just above the stars layer. We'll turn the stars on for just a second so we kind of see how that looks. I like how that looks. Now that it's underneath everything, I can kind of move everything around a little bit there and see how it looks. Okay. All right. Looks good. All right. Let's go over here to our planets now. Let's go ahead, and I want to take these planets. I want to make them bigger and move them down here. So I'm just going to grab them and I'm going to take them down here and I'm going to resize them. I'm going to hold down Shift to constrain the size, and I'm just going to make them a little bit bigger. Right about there. Looks good. Maybe we'll rotate those guys just a little bit there. All right, that looks good. We'll go ahead and commit that. All right, now I want to duplicate that. Okay, so how can we duplicate that? So we can take this and we can right click and we can duplicate layer right there. I could go up and go edit, copy and paste. Or I could hit Command J also is the duplicate layer. Any one of those three things will duplicate the layer there, okay? So we've got a duplicate layer. Looks like nothing's going on here, but if we take our move tool, grabbing the move tool, notice we do have a second set of planets there, okay? So let's go ahead and rename these planets. Let's go ahead and take our original planets and we'll go ahead and lock those so we don't accidentally move them. Let's take our copy and let's rename those. Let's say couple of planets. Hit return. Okay. And you say, but Mr. G, we're a couple of planets. We made 2 planets. You're right. So let's make 2 planets instead of 3 planets. I'm going to turn this backlight off again so you can see a bit better. All right. So if I want to get rid of one of these planets here, these are all together in a layer. So if I delete them, it'll delete the entire layer. So I need to select out one of those planets to delete. Let's say I want to take out this largest one here. Okay. So how can I do that? Okay. We haven't talked about, so this is going to be our first introduction into a selection. Okay. I can select that layer and delete part of it out. Okay. The selection is an area in Photoshop in a layer that affects just that selected area. Okay. So our selection tools over here are right up here. I have our marquee tool, our lasso tools, and our auto selection tools. Okay. So let's start with just our basic selection tools here. Okay. I have, when I hold down, a couple tools in that drawer. Okay. I have a rectangle select and I have an elliptical selection. So I got squares and I got circles, but planets are circles. So let's select some circles. Okay. So I'm going to click my ellipse. Okay. And right here, it says right there, when I hold over top of there, it's going to tell me, once I get up here, click away 1 second, I can unite, I can subtract, or I can intersect, or I can replace. Okay, so what we're going to do is make a new selection. We can add to that selection. We can subtract to that selection. That is essentially what that means. Okay, so we're going to make a new selection here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and I have that round selection tool, the spherical selection tool. And I want to select just right around that planet. Okay, if you're not sure if you can get it, we can always zoom in, and you can see that I've got that marquee that's going around that planet. Okay, now that I have got that selection going in there, I can just hit the delete key, and as long as I'm on that layer, it's going to delete that area. Okay, now that I've got that, now I need to get rid of my selection because it's still there. Okay, now I'm going to go up to select and say deselect. Okay, now I've made my first selection. Okay, now when I move my planets, I'm going to move them over here. We're going to resize them down just a little bit. About like that. That looks good to me. Check with our stars again. All right, everything's looking super duper. All right, let's get back to our astronaut. Where is she at? She is right down here. Let's go ahead and grab our move tool by hitting the letter V. We'll click on our astronaut, and we are going to rotate her just a little bit. Okay, and we want to duplicate her. Okay, I'm going to duplicate her. Again, we could select all and copy and paste her. We could duplicate the layer, or we could hit Command J, however you want to do to duplicate that layer. I'm just going to hit Command J to make a copy of that layer. Let's rename this one. I'm going to name this astronaut. Let's call her astronaut Biggie. All right, so I'm going to take astronaut Biggie. I'm going to get my move tool, and I'm going to move her over here. Since we called her astronaut Biggie, let's make her big. So I'm going to click and drag and make her nice and big there. Okay. Now, when we duplicate things in Photoshop, a lot of times you say, well, that one looks exactly like that one. So you want to alter them just a little bit sometimes, just so it tricks your eye into thinking it's a different image. Okay. So we can resize it. I can rotate it a little bit. That's a little bit different. I commit that. But what I'd like to do is flip it the other way. Okay. To flip it a mirror image of that. So I can go to Edit, Transform. Remember when we change things, they're called transformations. So I go down here and I transform, and I've got some options down here. Okay. But I can flip horizontally. So I can click that, and that'll click her right there. Okay. Flip her around there a couple times, hit Command Z just a little bit there. So now she is the mirror image, okay? Now she looks enough difference from the other one that they don't look completely similar, okay? Now we are going to go ahead and push her up here and just take her off the screen just a little bit. Maybe I'll make her even just a little bit bigger there. Put down that shift key so she doesn't distort. So I have a nice composition there, okay? And I'll go back down here, click on my stars layer, kind of look at my entire design, and I'm pretty happy with my design there. Okay, so let's stop there. For this assignment, you are going to take a screenshot of that. Remember, you're going to hit, if you're on a Mac machine, you're going to hit Command Shift number 3. If you're on a Windows machine, you'll hit print screen. If you are on a Chromebook, you're going to hit the Control and the Show Screen button, which is that little button in your F keys right above your 5, 6, 7 key. There's a video if you're not sure how to do that, and that'll make a screenshot of that. Okay, so that's what you'll turn in. But we want to save this as a copy, a working copy, just in case we have to go back to it. So let's say Mr. G says, well, you didn't change the astronaut. Can you redo that and turn that in? So you have a working copy, okay? If you just save this as a JPEG, it's going to take all these wonderful layers you have here and smash them all down into one flat layer, okay? And you won't be able to move any of these. All this will be a flattened image, okay? So to preserve these layers, we have to save as a JPEG or save as a Photoshop file. So we're going to go up here. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Save as PSD, okay? So we save as PSD, and there we go. We have our Photoshop file saved, okay? All right, so you are going to save your Photoshop file. You will upload that to your Google Drive if you need to work on that later in class. You will turn in the screenshot for your Google assignment or for your Google Classroom for this week, and do good work. If you have any questions, send me an email, and I will talk to you later.